Welcome to this edition of the ITPN Report. I'm Adam Coon. On this episode, we'll discuss the opening 2 rounds of the current iRacing InThePitsNews Truck Series Chase, plus a preview on the upcoming Formula Floret. First off, SBLD drivers Andrew Willias and Bennett chatted before the Phoenix round last Saturday about their fight in the point standings. Bristol race winner Kyle Ammon also joins the show to chat about his dominant win from the fastest half mile on the calendar, and more. JCTV's Josh Coppernoll was out on track at Phoenix, and before he knew it, he collided with his playoff contending teammate. Josh recaps his quick race and previews Martinsville. Let's get started. Joined now by Andrew Willias and Bennett, who rank 9th and 10th in the current standings with 3 races to go. Andrew, you passed Brett the other night after Bristol in the point standings to get that 9th position. Are you going to continue to race him, trying to be the rest of the best, or are you just focusing on wins with 3 races left?
I think I'm pretty focused on going and trying to get that 9th place. I'm not really too focused on wins. I feel a bit nervous racing around guys that are going for the championship, and I give them a lot more leeway than I would, earlier in the season or if I was in a top 8. But if I'm racing around Brett, yeah, that's where I'll go and I'll force the issue a bit because, him and I, we both have pretty much nothing to lose in this scenario.
I'm in the same boat with Andrew where at the same time, though, I think for me, the biggest goal is to try to make sure SBLD wins the team's championship over Vortex because I think they pulled back ahead of us either after the final regular season race or after Bristol, and we're still right in that too. So both, I want to finish as high as possible and try to get some wins, but we'll see what happens. I race everybody the same way. I feel like no matter what, I give space, but for the most part, I give as much space to other drivers as they give to me. If they always race me respectfully, I try to race them respectfully back, and if they don't, then I don't give them as much space. So.
Yeah, and speaking of that, you're right on that. We do need to watch out for that team points championship. That's something I wasn't thinking about. So yeah, I'll definitely need to keep that in mind. And then we do need to also, although we're giving space and stuff to the championship contenders, you're also right. I know I give, Dalton a bit more room than I would anybody else, and also Michael.
Yeah, if we can help Dalton win the championship.
Yeah. And Michael Kruger is kind of like he's helped me so much throughout the season and everything like that, and he's kind of like our honorary member of SBLD, but he's a lot smarter than us and a lot faster. So, I give him a lot more space than I would, let's say, Cam or Alex or Carl or Craig.
Well, yeah, you mentioned giving more guys space. Andrew, you finished 10th the other night. How was it out there trying to maneuver everyone and give everyone as much space as possible at such a narrow racetrack?
I felt good with it. On the restarts, it was a little bit hairy. I definitely feel I could have pushed it a little bit harder and been on the edge a bit more. Definitely felt I could have got a decent top 5 out of there. I didn't have a damaged truck or anything, but I had one mistake on the final restart. Ended up having a truck that was 90 degrees perpendicular to the track, and that definitely did not help me when I fell off about 5 seconds.
Yeah, Bristol could have been a really good race for me, I felt like, but then early I should have given more space to David off the corner. He's kind of been someone who at short tracks a lot of times has been kind of sideways a lot and starting to keep his truck straight. It seems like at time I pinched him off a corner and he got loose and sent me slamming into the inside wall, and it pretty much ended my day. And since I'm not running for the championship, if I was still running for the championship, I probably would have went out and putted around for the rest of the laps, trying to pick up as many points as possible. But at this point, it's for 9th place. I'm gonna go try to race as hard as possible and finish as high as possible, but I'm not gonna limp around with a damaged truck and get in the way of championship contenders. So
Definitely.
sucked.
I feel, and I know I might be, beating a dead horse here, but there are other people that are not, in the battle for the championship that are not thinking the same way, and it's even from my perspective, I'm thinking like, well, if I was in a top 8, I wouldn't want to be raced like that by a guy that's 30 laps down. And we saw a lot of that at Bristol, and it was just I thought it was a bit ridiculous, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it goes back to me to Talladega. What happened to me at Talladega with somebody who wasn't battling for the championship and ended up, and it didn't for sure cost me a spot in the final 4. I still almost made it in and just didn't have the truck at the end because of that damage I got. Where it was somebody outside the playoffs being a little bit too aggressive and ended up costing me. And I don't want to be that person to other people. Like, my kind of viewpoint has always been like when I'm racing for championships or wins is I am fine if my own lack of talent or my own mistakes cost me the race. I don't like it when other people's mistakes are what cost me. And I don't want to be the person who's making those mistakes to cost people who are trying to win a championship.
Well, one thing that is going to be a factor this weekend, and hopefully, like you just mentioned, you guys don't become part of the story, is going to be the restarts and how spread out everything is going to get at Phoenix on the new layout. How are you guys kind of anticipating the initial start and the restarts?
I think they'll be pretty well. Okay, I'm probably going to eat my words on this. I think they're going to be pretty calm unless we get a late restart. Then I think that's when it's going to get pretty stupid.
Yeah, and I'll say I will be completely honest. I have no clue what my speed is going to be like at Phoenix. I am driving home 6 hours from St. Louis on Saturday, and I'll get home probably 2 hours before the race and maybe get a couple laps of practice in. So I'm probably going to be slow early. But if I have any kind of speed towards the end of that race, which there's a chance I will, because Phoenix does drive a little bit like Dover and Iowa, which are the two short tracks where I've actually felt like I had some decent pace this year. But if I have pace and I'm up there close to a win, I'm going to be super aggressive on a restart if there's a chance at a win. Otherwise, I'm going to be taking it probably easy, not wanting to hurt anybody. But my viewpoint changes when there's a win in play, if that were to be the case.
Now, if we were racing Indy cars at Phoenix, I'd be a lot more comfortable, but I can't remember the last time I even did a lap at Phoenix.
I think I did one C Open race there last year, or maybe in the spring when everything was at Phoenix. Or no, I ran a fixture A Open, which was a disaster and a half because the next gen cars at Phoenix do not feel good.
Well, it's interesting you guys say that because, of course, you guys are separated by only 2 points, and you guys are both not really confident going into it. What are overall your goals for that race Saturday night?
Mine are to get as solid of a finish as I can and kind of stay out of the way of the championship contenders. It'd be nice, to beat Brett, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna make a mess or cause any unnecessary drama just for 9th place with a guy that's my teammate, And Brett hit the nail on the head when he mentioned that, there's a team championship and we're 2 points behind, so I think it'd be smart to not to race, with my elbows out.
Yeah. No, I agree completely with that. It's end of the day, it's going to be just mainly trying to get as good a finish as we can. I don't think we're in a bad spot in terms of where we are in terms of the. Actually, those team points are not updated, so I'm not sure what the team points situation is. Let me see if they're updated on the spreadsheet.
Well, Adam, I think that's all we need here.
Yeah, I gotta get going. I got dinner.
Make sure you leave the recording.
Oh, do I have to?
Yes.
Some of it, maybe.
No, I don't want to eat on the podcast this time.
Joining me now is Kyle Ammon, who won at Bristol Motor Speedway last weekend. Kyle, 2 for 2 at Bristol in the ITPN Truck Series. What makes you so good around that racetrack? The chasers were pretty much concerned going into it, and it's described as flying an airplane in a gymnasium, but you're so comfortable there.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. It's thanks for pumping my tires there, and I really like it here. It takes you a bit to get going, but once you kind of find the rhythm and you find your pace, it's fun. I mean, I've been described as flying a fighter jet in a gymnasium as well, but yeah, it's all the same. I think it's a lot of patience. It's just something that if you've run good at a short track, if you run some really small short tracks, even though it's a high speed short track, it's still about the same as driving at a slow speed. Like if you go to South Boston or Stafford or somewhere like that, it's almost like driving a place like there because you gotta just be patient with throttle on the brakes and all that. So it's about the same.
Well, you mentioned patience, of course. Mentioned this the other night. You drove through the field, started towards the back. How patient were you in that opening stage to slice through everyone?
It's patient for the first few laps because you gotta get a little heat in the tires, and then once the heat starts coming up the tires, then you can start attacking a little bit. So I'd say about the first like 5 to 10, you just kind of sit there and figure it out, and then you just kind of start trying to pick them off as guys use up their tires. You figure out where guys are good and where they're not, and you just try to play to your strengths. That's really it.
And one strength you had was, just staying right there glued to the bottom. That's where you won the race last season, and you stayed pretty much there all Saturday night. How is it just trying to stay down low at Bristol? We saw guys running almost every lane there the other night.
Yeah, it took me a little bit to learn how to do it, and if you can do it right, it works out great. For whatever reason, at the night races at Bristol, the bottom is the place to be. But during the day, it's not the best line. I don't know if it's just from the heat and the way the sun, comes down into the stadium effect of the seats. But yeah, you gotta be able to use all three, top, middle, and bottom. Middle's really a no man's land, but if you can uh, run with if a guy's up top and you can run the middle and stay even with them and carry a little momentum, it helps you try to drive it in and pull a little bit of a slide job if you're having trouble passing them on the bottom. Race was pretty good. It got strung out, which was nice. I see some of the quicker guys got hung in the back. I don't know if there's trouble passing guys or what, but I figured Carl and Alonso was there, and then he'd fall off. But I felt like Carl was going to be a little stronger than what he was.
Yeah, we were talking just before and agreed completely. He got stuck back there after damage. How important is it to keep the truck clean while you're maneuvering through the field, knowing it's just really close quarter racing there?
Yeah, I think it's pretty important to keep the truck clean. At least keep the front fenders and the quarters and back clean as much as you can, because if you're trying to work, air actually here plays a pretty big effect on the truck. And if you can keep that left front fender clean, and if a guy's half a car length, a half a groove up on the track, you can use that left front fender. It'll pin your front fender down, and it'll help the car rotate a little bit. So I think it's important. I think it's important to keep the truck clean no matter where you're at.
Well, the other night was just your second start this season. What have you accomplished since you've stopped participating in the league full time?
We've been really focused on the 100% Cup Series. We run the full distance Cup races on Saturday nights as well, and we had 2 off weeks for us here, and decided to come out and play a little bit. But this is a great place to come. It's a good way to do something a little different than running a Cup car every weekend. What were your thoughts on the race from a above standpoint? What were your thoughts?
Well, it was very easy to tell you were class of the field there in the second half, I think. You were just able to pull away pretty confidently, I think, and you didn't really have a threat on those final restarts at all. It was fun to see the battling though behind you. The playoff guys fighting for every position was the highlight, I think, of the race because they were kind of duking it out the entire final 150 laps or so, while you just kind of spanked the field.
I did my job properly.
It was good. Spoiler, we've seen now you and Kyle Ruda just kind of show up and spoil the last couple dramatic races.
Oh, so when he ran Talladega?
Yeah, you showed up out of nowhere and stole it in the last corner. Everyone wiped out.
Wow, that's one way to get it. I think the fields are tight and they're strong, and it's definitely it's definitely gotten harder. The guys that have raced here every week, they're strong competitors.
Absolutely, and it's very interesting. Like, despite this, they stayed right at the front of the field almost all night at Bristol with you in there and all the other full-time non-chasers. They ran great races, but they got kind of shuffled towards the back at the end.
Yeah, I noticed the tire where it became a big thing. For if you ran the top too long, it killed the right side tires too much, and then you could see. I mean, honestly, I was about 10 cars after the start finish line. I was lifting. I wasn't even using any brake half the time getting into the corners. What was the first on track incident? It was lap 1, right?
Lap 102. Yeah, it was very early. It was the 38 spinning.
Oh yeah, it was right in front of me.
Were you really that close to it? I know you were back there, but I didn't know you were.
Yep, it was right in front of me. He got in front of me on the start. I was trying to be patient and let it kind of cycle out or get in rhythm, and yeah, I didn't realize it was right in front of me. And he collected a few guys.
Oh yeah, I see where you were. You were right next to him, yeah.
Yep. It made a nice easy in and out during pit stops after that.
So what happened there? Did he just lose grip off of 4 with a cold tire?
Yeah, so certain tracks it's a little the short track tire is a little hard for whatever reason, and it takes about, I've heard, anywhere from 5 to 15 laps before you get max grip and you get max heat in the tires. So there's some things like I do some things to try to get the tires to get some heat. Just buzzing them, trying to just go down, drop the first gear, just light them up, drag the brake, do whatever you can just to generate heat. But sometimes it ends up biting you on the back end of the run. You just abuse the tires too much trying to get heat in them. It's almost, it's like, it's a double-edged sword on what you want to do. But I have a rhythm where I kind of just go through my thing and right before the restart, I buzz the tires, rev the car, drop it in neutral and put it back in gear. Just get myself going.
Yeah, that's great insight.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that's different with running this series is you guys choose your lane, so you can almost fall to the back and then jump right back to the front. Like at IRP, I just rode around in last, and then just decided, I was like, all right, nobody's gonna go to the bottom. I'll go to the bottom, and I moved right up to 5th. I was on track, and I was like, oh wow, nobody likes the bottom. But here, most of the time, everybody kind of was just almost like restarted where you wanted to. Like, so if I was 9th on track, I almost restarted 9th on track. It wasn't this here. Everybody kind of doubled up because you can run both lanes, the bottom and the top. So it really doesn't make a difference on what you want to do.
Yeah, the restart chooses was the same thing at Nashville too, just beyond IRP. So yeah, it was really great to see it kind of equal back up at Bristol the other night.
Yeah, and then for Bristol, you can run. The top is way dominant. You can generate a lot of speed on new tires because about I don't know, almost hold it wide open. It's very interesting, but like on from center off, it's almost like you just mat it and just drive off because it's got so much grip, and then about halfway through the run, you just kind of start lifting and rolling it and not abusing the tires as much. Two lap cars were pretty rough to get around. One was good. He would get out of the way once you got to his bumper. He would let you know. Other one, he just kind of run middle of the track, run to the top of the track, and then run right back down to the bottom. It kind of held you up for a bit. It was a bit frustrating, but they fixed themselves and kind of went on from there.
Well, this is kind of going back to the question beforehand. This is a completely different league in the sense of that it's all fixed setup, so everyone's sharing that setup, and obviously not everyone's going to be comfortable running it at the same track. It's been a pretty consistent topic all season, race to race. How did you feel with it? Obviously dominating that race, but how did it apply to your driving set there?
I like it's. I guess it depends on kind of what the day of the week is for me. Yeah, I love doing the open setup stuff. Whether I really love doing the open setup stuff with short track stuff, with the tour type modifieds, and that's really it. But trucks, it's hard because they're a little different setting up wise than the Cup car and the Xfinity car. They take some little nuances that you don't see every week. Hold on, not every week, but most of the time, their suspension package works differently than like the Cup suspension package and the Xfinity suspension package for whatever reason on iRacing. But they get going, but it's nice to just be able to come in and just run. It takes a little bit. I would say it took me the first 50 laps to learn how to drive the setup. Driving it in practice, you're just trying to rattle off a couple, 5 to 10 laps quickly, but you don't understand what the setup's going to do until you get into a race pace situation when everybody's on tire fall off and everybody's doing the same thing. Or practice, everybody, one guy could be on the track for 50 laps and the other guy can be on the track for 3 laps. So it's very different. It's hard to judge what it's going to do until you get to the race situation.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me tonight, Kyle.
Yeah, not a problem. You guys have a good rest of your season. Maybe we'll see in the winter. See some more.
All right. Hopefully we do, and good luck for the rest of the 100% Cup season.
Thank you. We're going to need it. Got a lot of work to do.
It's Kyle Ammon, Bristol winner from last Saturday night. Joining me now is 14th place finisher from Phoenix Saturday night, Josh Coppernoll. Josh, you made your return back on the track from the booth. It didn't go as planned, unfortunately. Lap 1, unfortunately, tragedy struck.
Oh man, it was unfortunate. I wasn't really feeling good about the race to begin. Teammate Michael Kruger, he was giving me a lot of feedback, which was helping tremendously. And then the tragedy stuck because of teammate Michael. It happened. So what happened was, cold tires. It's funny to think that cold tires will really be a factor, and that'll make it just where you're going to lose control of your vehicle, in this case truck. But it just that's exactly what happened. Was we were on lap 1 going through, what was it, turn 2, new Phoenix configuration has me a little confused, but I think it was turn 2, and he just got loose, went up, hit the wall. He overcorrected it, and then come down. I was hard on the brakes because I saw him starting to come down the track. Unfortunately, about the time I thought I was going to be good, we made contact, and I had quite a bit of damage, but the PBR crew did their hardest to get us back out there. And we were, I think, about 15 laps down. At that time, we were just kind of limping around, but it happens. And I wasn't mad about my race. I was mad for Kruger because obviously him going for a championship and being a teammate of mine, drivers as well for my team. That it was a bummer and devastating for him, and I definitely felt his I guess anger or sadness at what happened. It was definitely unfortunate, but it's part of racing. It happens, and just if we get another opportunity to go out there and race, it won't be this season. I know that, but next season, if we get another opportunity, absolutely love to go out there. And I like having fun. And all 3 races that I've done so far, one last season being Michigan, and the one earlier this season also being Michigan, I've had fun, and it's super awesome to run with these guys. And 14th, I think is my second best finish. Because we finished 9th at Michigan earlier in the season, and last season at Michigan, I want to say it was like a 17th place finish or something like that. So, despite even being involved in a wreck, just kind of clawing our way through as many positions as we can. And top 15 ain't bad.
Absolutely not. And while you were out there, what did you learn? Obviously, you're not on track as much as you probably would like to against these guys. You didn't quite get the full 150 laps, but like you mentioned, you got it back out on track and ran decent amount. Being off pace, of course, but what was it? Just trying to learn the track and learn against the drivers.
I was surprised because obviously this is my first. If you want to call Phoenix a short track, at least track where you really have to brake at with these guys. Because Michigan, it's just wide open, or later in the runs lifting off the throttle a little bit. So I was a little bit surprised at some of the aggressiveness by some of the drivers. I don't exactly want to call anybody out, so I'm sorry, Scott, but like Scott, he was. I don't want to say he was aggressive, but it was definitely different. Seeing how he raced at and Scott Roush, that is, if I didn't already say his last name, but just the way he was racing at Phoenix was different than like racing with him at Michigan. Again, because Phoenix, it is a little bit harder to pass as well, so you have to try to take the runs you can get. The dog leg being probably the easiest place to get by somebody if you cut the dog leg and somebody else doesn't. But I definitely, I guess I say all this to say, I was surprised at a lot of the aggressiveness that there was on track from a lot of the drivers that you just don't really see from up in the booth. And I wasn't. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to call out Scott or anything. I don't think he did anything wrong. I don't think anybody really did anything wrong as far as racing. I know there was controversy with other drivers. I'll get into that because I'm not part of that controversy, so it doesn't concern me. But it's definitely fun, different than the speedways at Michigan.
Well, Josh, unfortunately, we won't be joined by you in the booth this Saturday night, but Martinsville Speedway is going to play host to the third of the 4 Chase races. What do you expect for the paperclip race we're going to see with the trucks this Saturday?
Martinsville is one of my favorite tracks. That when it's on a schedule, and if I get to race it, it is definitely one that I love. Obviously, I wouldn't be racing regardless whether I was going to be around or not. But Martinsville, it is a tough short track. We saw Bristol, where Bristol has a lot more throttle time. Martinsville is going to be a lot more brake time and rolling, just kind of letting the truck roll. I think, as I said, I don't really want to get into kind of the drama that happened at Phoenix again, because I wasn't part of that. Doesn't concern me. But I think you may see some tempers flare at Martinsville. Maybe some payback from Phoenix. I don't know. I know there was a lot of guys that were very upset with people. We're getting towards the end of the season. Just 2 races left. I think some guys may say, hey, you didn't really give me room here. I'm not going to give you room now. So I think it's definitely going to be a chaotic race. I would hope that drivers show up clean, race, like we see them put on a great show every week. But I think Martinsville, it's going to be a fun one regardless, and I'm just sad that I'm not going to be in the booth for it. So I'll be on vacation. But yeah, Martinsville, it's paperclip. It's tough, tight corners, and yeah, I think those drivers have a lot to work for.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us again tonight on this edition of the ITPN Report, Josh.
Yeah, no problem. A little bit different being on this side of the ITPN Report, but had fun.
Of course, anytime, Josh. And once again, sorry the race did not go as planned at Phoenix, and unfortunately we won't be joined with you in Martinsville, but look forward to ending the season at Kansas together in a couple weeks' time.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Kansas. Definitely to be a great one, and looking forward to having the season end at Kansas. The mile and a halves have put on a tremendous show all season long, and I expect nothing different at Kansas, especially with a championship on the line.
Dawson Allen and Alonso Chocano now join the show. They will be a part of the JCTV broadcasts for the upcoming Formula Floret with me this season. How are you guys anticipating this season that's getting ready to kick off this September?
It's going to be really interesting just to see who stands out and who separates themselves from the rest of the field. I look forward to this first season just to see kind of really what to expect for the rest of this part of the league. It's something we haven't really seen before or from most of these drivers. At least I haven't. And we don't really get the opportunity to do a whole bunch of road course racing. So I look forward to it. It's gonna be fun. These are really fun cars to drive, and the schedule is really, really good. So it all should add up for some interesting entertainment to watch.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely going to be very interesting. Some of these guys stepping a little bit out of the comfort zone to go road course racing for a couple of weeks here. The schedule is lining up to be a really good one. We got a couple visits to a couple different tracks. Lime Rock is one that I'm really looking forward to. And then both Watkins Glen layouts, those should be pretty fun races there. And, just the idea of this, you got two 20-minute sessions, and that second race will be the invert of the first, is definitely going to add some spice in these races, because if you've got those guys struggling in those races, throwing them up at the front of the field might just cause a little more excitement than you want to. So definitely interested to watch some of these guys, that we've seen here in the Pits News for the Truck Series, battling out with some of these guys coming over from other leagues to see how they race and how these disciplines can kind of mesh together, and I think it'll be a pretty fun time.
Absolutely, Dawson. And one thing you brought up that's going to be very crucial is going to be sprint races. 20-minute heat races pretty much is all the feature races are going to be, so it's going to be really, really quick.
Well, Mr. Alonso, besides obviously Watkins Glen Cup, any other races you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Lime Rock. I personally really enjoy that track. I think it's very fun. It's one of the few road courses that I actually enjoy racing in myself. Not because I don't enjoy the races, but because I'm actually have some sort of skill in those tracks. Not much of a road course racer, so there's not many of them that my skill translates well at. So Road America is one I have circled on the calendar for sure. Of course, you have all the tracks that we usually see in NASCAR races, like the Charlotte Roval, and Canadian Tire, even Daytona Road Course and Road America. So there's a lot of tracks on here that are pretty familiar, but I would definitely say Lime Rock and Watkins Glen. Those are probably my favorites on here.
Yeah, and Alonso, you participated briefly last season in the pilot experiments, and you have track time with this car.
Well, emphasis on briefly because it was very brief. I didn't have much practice beforehand, and I didn't do so well in the race. The cars themselves were super fun to drive, but it was at a track where I didn't have much experience on, so that's why I'm looking forward to going to one of these tracks that I at least know the layout pretty well. Obviously, I'm going to be in the booth with you, Adam, most of the schedule, but I would definitely like to see myself on the track at least maybe once or twice this season, and hopefully participate in fun just so I can get a different viewpoint on how these guys are racing, and that way maybe I can learn something to bring back to the booth. Dawson, we start out the schedule by going to a historic track like Laguna Seca. Can you just talk about, really what are the main things that you're going to look out for going into this first race and being at a track like Laguna Seca that, is just so historic and so complex really with all its ups and downs and really complex turns.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to watch. Especially like you mentioned, that historical racetrack in Laguna Seca. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch these drivers, go around and turn laps for the first race here at such a historic, amazing track. And I just can't wait for it. That's going to be a very fun race. I believe it's going to be very exciting. You got a couple of those spots there that I think we're going to see some action from some of these guys. There's lots of room for them to maneuver that track, so I think that's going to be a very good opener. You've got the Auto Club Moto layout, which leads to be a pretty fun race. Summit Point looks to be another one that I've got bookmarked that's going to be a really fun race. And then one of the big wild cards in Daytona Road Course, with the open wheel cars going to a track like Daytona, especially the road course layout that they have for iRacing, it's going to provide a ton of fun, especially coming off of that backstretch chicane. There's going to be a lot of speed going down into turn one, so it's going to make it very exciting on those first starts. Lime Rock is a very great track as always. Road America will be fun to watch as well. You've got your ventures to Watkins Glen, which will be good. Canadian Tire as well. And then Charlotte Roval, another one of those wildcard tracks. Not as big as Daytona Road Course, but still just enough. It's tight enough to where there's going to be a lot of action and a lot of craziness. So that's one that I've bookmarked to be another fun race as well. The Homestead Road Course, it's going to be another tight one like that, And then finally you close out at Road Atlanta, another historic track, a beautiful track. I think that is a perfect place to cap off this season one, and I think this schedule is just beautiful.
As Dawson pretty much went through the gauntlet there of the great schedule, I completely agree. Big fan of almost all of the racetracks that we are looking forward to, and I'm very, very excited to join the booth with you guys for the majority of the season. And Alonso, this is going to be your first time calling races like this consistently. How are you looking forward to this, especially with it being completely different Formula car racing?
I definitely look forward to it. I know I'm probably gonna make a lot of mistakes, but hey, it's all gonna be a part of the learning curve, and picking up this new little hobby. But it's gonna be a lot of fun to be in the booth with you guys, to be able to watch these races. Especially like I talked about earlier, it's something that we don't really see or do all that much with at least many of the drivers here in the roster that we have. We mostly see them do uh, oval races or stock car racing, like myself. So it's gonna be a lot of fun just to see who stands out, and there's gonna be a lot of action with the schedule that we have, like we talked about. I love the idea of having the two 20-minute races with the invert. It's not a super long schedule, but it's not too short anyways, so it's going to be packed with action, and it's going to be so much fun just seeing it, getting that perspective from the booth, but also having the opportunity to be able to race. It's really it's going to be awesome. I just can't think of any other word to say.
And we talk about you joining the booth with us here. This will be your first adventure into the booth, and I think it's going to be very fun to have someone like you up here. Not only because it keeps you off the track and keeps you away from having more bragging rights about how better you are than me, but also it allows for that other experience. I only have so much that I can provide. With my racing experience here, you have contended for wins, contended for races, contended for a championship, in the truck league. So I think you can carry some of that over here into the booth with you for this Formula Florida season. I think it'll be a very fun experience for all of us here at JCTV.
Well, I really appreciate that, and it's gonna be fun. You being more of in a veteran role, and me being in a rookie role. It's gonna be interesting, and I look forward to learning a lot from both you, Dawson, and Adam as well. You guys are veterans now in the booth, since you broadcast for JCTV with the InThePitsNews Truck Series, and I always watch back those races and get to hear you guys, and I always enjoy listening to your commentary, and I look forward to being a part of it, and enjoying it from a different point of view and a different perspective.
The Your Weekend Warrior Formula Florida season comes to JCTV September 1st, 8 p.m. from Laguna Seca. And now Nick Dwornik from Blazer Sim Racing's Formula Florida, he joins the ITPN Report. Good evening, Nick. Could you explain the basics of the Formula IR04 car real quick and the championship that's going to be kicking up this fall?
Yeah, for sure, Adam. The Formula IR04 car is the iRacing equivalent of a real-life Formula 4 car used in the Formula 4 series. It is typically a feeder series into Formula 3 or other open-wheel sorts of racing. Worldwide, it has its own individual series that go on. it's mostly regional in a sense. So that's the appeal to it, is that it's a very cheap and effective car to learn a lot of car control and mechanics with. It also allows for great racing. My personal experience with the car in the sim, it allows for a lot of real world driving tactics of a Formula car, such as like an Indy car or even a Formula One car, in the sense that there's a lot of downforce to play with, so steering is very finicky, but there's also a lot of mechanical grip because of the speed that's actually in the F4 car, so you can get away with some sliding action, and it's really nice to drive. So that's what kind of brought me to want to make a series to produce with Blazer Sim Racing. As for the championship itself, the Formula Florid series is a 12-round series that's going to be taking place alongside the InThePitsNews Truck Series schedule. I tried to line it up more so that if the Truck Series happens to have a track that might incorporate a roval of some sort, we are trying to put it alongside so that guys in the Truck Series can come also race Formula Florid, and it's the same tracks, trying to keep the costs low there, but it also allows for some similar experiences, so some popular heavy hitters get noticed and raced a lot more.
In the pilot season this spring, it came down to a close championship battle at Sebring between Aaron Siciliano and yourself. Aaron ended up winning both events in the final night, but the drop weeks were calculated in, and Nick, you were crowned the Pilot Series champion by just a singular point. What was that sprint series kind of like?
Yeah, it was a really tight-knit battle for the pilot season. Essentially, what the pilot season was for was to see if this format that I had concocted going on could work with racers from the InThePitsNews Truck Series. So members of the Radius Racing Squad, along with members of the iRacing Griff Cup Series, which is a smaller private league, kind of an offshoot, per se, of your typical iRacer, along with some of my own personal friends, we all grouped together to put on an 8-round series to see who could be crowned the Pilot Series champion. It actually turned out really successful in regards of who was all there. The racing was close up front. There was also a chance for the mid-pack to have their own battles, along with some good laughs when the tail of the field would have their mishaps. All in all, it was a really good time getting that together, and I was given the green light to put this on with Blazer Sim Racing, and I figured I had to take the chance and be a league owner for the first time.
Preseason races are scheduled this summer, beginning tomorrow at the time of this recording. So with the 3 exhibition races lined up this summer, leading into the season this fall, what are you guys ultimately hoping to accomplish in these few trial runs?
Oh, as you said, the 3 exhibition races will be going on throughout July and August. We're heading to Homestead, Miami road course as the first round, which would be, as you said, tomorrow, followed by the Charlotte Roval and the Road Atlanta full layout. The main accomplishment I want to see is just to figure out where we stand on pace. I know with all much of these Truck Series folks, road courses aren't exactly their strongest suit. There are some very exceptional exceptions in regards to that that could definitely wheel anything that you put them in. But essentially, the reason why I wanted to get this going was to have a fun, sort of, I guess, amateur club racing experience. Hence why the maximum IR cap is 3,000, putting me out of contention. In order to do it, I will be doing full race control. It's essentially going to be a way to get the rust off of drivers, as well as rust off myself, to make sure that when we're going into the first official public season, that there will be as few mishaps as possible. Essentially, it's just a way to get all the troubleshooting out of the way.
Of course, Nick, thanks for joining this ITPN report once again, and we're looking forward to these races this September. Is there anything you'd like to add real quick before we go?
Yeah, Adam, I'm really excited for this first season to finally kick off as part of the Blazer Sim Racing umbrella. It's going to be really nice to see what some of these Truck Series guys can do. with a open wheel vehicle. I know that some of the radius guys definitely got a little bit of an advantage going in, but I'm sure after the preseason, everyone's going to be up to speed, and we're going to have a real good time in regards of having a competitive environment. If you are interested in signing up, by all means, visit the BSR Discord. The Formula Floor tab will be there once you join up. And by all means, sign up and give some of the preseason races a go. We're racing July 14th, July 28th, and August 11th. Those are your 3 preseason races before we finally kick off the official season. September 1st at 8 p.m. on JCTV. Practice will open up at 6:30. We're going to keep the format throughout the preseason races, so you got a lot of time to practice. Don't really worry about if you feel like you're a little bit off pace. Don't worry about it. These first 3 races, they don't mean much. Okay, we're just trying to get people through the door, people to experience the IRO4, and people to experience some tracks that they might be familiar with on the oval side, and run a little bit the road course configurations. I'm really excited. This should go well.
Of course, hopefully it does, and we'll be right there September 1st from Laguna Seca to see it unfold, the inaugural Formula Floor race, 8 p.m. qualifying, and we'll get right into the 2 doubleheader 20-minute sprint races right there. Thanks for joining, Nick. This episode of the ITPN Report is brought to you by FACES, the National Craniofacial Association. Donate today at faces-cranio.org to adopt a face, donate directly, fundraise yourself, or to gift match. faces-cranio.org to donate today. Thanks again. Now, back to the program. Well, moving on from Formula Floor, let's move to the Season 3 schedule. That is the Blazer Sim Racing InThePitsNews Truck Series, which is going to kick off September 3rd at Daytona. 21 races this season, guys, plus 5-race chase.
Yeah, I mean, this new schedule is a little bit different than what we've had in the past, with our first dirt race being included in the schedule and the Talladega doubleheaders. I mean, that's December 17th. I have it written on my calendar. It's going to be a big day. 2 races. I mean, you have 2 opportunities to go out there and get yourself a win. It's going to be a lot of points on the table. It's going to be a very important day. And then just 2 races after that, and then you're into the playoffs. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I love the schedule personally. I love the changes. I think they're all great additions. Just, changing it up just a little bit, but not too much, because I think we have a formula that works. And I love what we have, but these slight changes, well, they're not too slight, but these changes are just going to add a little bit of spice to the season, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree completely here, Alonso. It's going to be a very fun season. It's going to be a very fun set of races. We have that stretch right there. We have Michigan, which runs essentially almost like a plate race. Then you go to Bristol, which is, short track racing that provided great race here just a couple weeks ago for the Season 2 playoff opener. But then you have the doubleheader at Talladega, which will be huge because anything can happen. We saw it happen earlier, last year's, we saw Reuter pull off the win when everybody else wrecked around them. Just absolute madhouse. And to do that twice is going to make things fun. So, and, with the addition of Atlanta in the playoffs, I don't think it's been determined what Atlanta we run, but if it's that plate package, that's a plate race in the playoffs. That is going to be a huge race for everybody that's involved. So, a lot of good races building up to the playoffs. And like you mentioned, the dirt race, which will be another wild card. It's just leading to a very fun season that I think we'll see a lot of fun racing, but we'll also see some tempers flaring here throughout the season.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, last race we had at Talladega, I was top 3 on going into the last lap and ended up finishing outside the top 10. So, anything can happen at Talladega, and that's no joke, because you know, anything really, like, you can have a fuel mileage race, or you can have a wreck fest. like we've had before. You can have something in between. Maybe we'll get two completely different Talladega races on that doubleheader, but definitely that's probably the date I'm most looking forward for. Besides Daytona, which is the first race of the season, obviously getting things kicked off, and then Kansas. Hopefully, find myself back in championship contention. But besides those two races, Talladega, looking forward to it.
Yeah, obviously, I think we're both got those same races bookmarked, Daytona and Talladega. But I think I have another one as well, Kentucky Motor Speedway. Home track race for me. I'm excited to see that pop up on the schedule. I think that's going to be another fun race because while the racing in real life at Kentucky doesn't really run too well, the experience on iRacing is a lot better and it's a lot more fun than what you see in the real life counterparts. So I think that'll put on a pretty good race as well. Las Vegas is always a really good race. It's a very good track for the trucks. And like you said, Kansas is a very, very good race, and it's always great. And I'm glad we have it back as our season finale. I think it's going to be a heck of a show.
I'm glad you brought up Kentucky because last time we raced at Kentucky was even before we were called the InThePitsNews Trucks, and it was actually the very first race of that league, and I remember leading a lot of it. It was a very good race, and I personally just completely took myself out of contention by speeding on pit road. So gonna be trying to not make that mistake again, but hopefully I find myself in contention for it. I That was the last time I've raced it, so it has good memories for the most part. I'm really looking forward to that one as well.
Going over some of the changes on the Season 3 schedule that you guys kind of mentioned. Kentucky, brand new, September 24th, going to be the debut race for the league there. Pocono, then the very next weekend, Tricky Triangle, that's going to be very intriguing. Daytona Road Course is added a couple weeks after that. Las Vegas is back after a season off. Going from the fairgrounds in Nashville to the Super Speedway. Lonzo, you mentioned this. The dirt race at Eldora is added. And, of course, Atlanta and the Chase, Dawson, they're going to be very, very interesting if we use the new Atlanta, of course, like you mentioned, being a plate race. And either way, 3 mile and a half in the Chase races is going to be very interesting with Phoenix, which we saw was chaotic last weekend, this season, and Martinsville, of course, which is always going to be crazy, I think.
Yeah, I mean, with Phoenix being so fresh in the memory box, I definitely want some redemption back there, going back to Phoenix. Look forward to it January 28th, I believe it is. I feel like we had a really good truck at Phoenix this past race. Just had some bad luck, cut up in a wreck, which unfortunately was someone else's mistake, but we get to try it all over again next season. It's gonna be fun. It's a really fun track. This new format for it is a little bit different than what I'm used to, but you know, um, gives us plenty of time to prepare for it.
Yeah, Phoenix this season was a very chaotic race. Of course, for everybody in our playoffs, only one guy of the 8 managed to finish top 10 in the race. So it was a wild race, and a lot of issues for a lot of people. So it'll be interesting to see it again. See how much different that race runs when it rolls back around, if at all, or if it stays that same hectic, chaotic race where everybody's just fighting for positions and everybody left and right's dropping like flies. So that will be a fun one. And one I think we're glossing over is Chicagoland. Chicagoland's a really fun racetrack, and I think it's very exciting to see that here, especially as the playoff opener. I feel like that's going to be another one of those wild card races where anything can happen, and we can see anybody pull off an upset. So I'd keep my eye on those first 3 weeks playoffs. Even just the whole playoffs as a whole. All the tracks together, they all have their own quirks to them that will make them just a very exciting set of 5 weeks.
Yeah, as Dawson brought up, Chicagoland's going to kick off the Chase January 21st. Alonso, you dominated the Chicagoland race early this season. Going back there in a couple months, obviously a long way until there, but if you make the chase next season, how's that going to be confidence-wise beginning the 5-week stretch right there?
It definitely gives me a lot of confidence with it being the first race in the chase. However, this it being in the chase changes so much, so many things. Just because people are gonna go into it practicing and practicing at least more than they usually might do for a regular race. So it's definitely gonna be, I think, more competitive than what we've seen in the past. I look forward to it. It's a really fun race. It's a really fun track to race on, but I expect a lot more competition to show up and it being not so easy for me in January for sure. Adam, with you being in the booth, we see a lot of action throughout the season. We see a lot of surprise winners sometimes, and we still have that wild card into effect for next season. What I mean is, of course, the two wild card positions for the drivers between 9th and 20th in the standings. For those that have the most wins, they are in the chase, even if they don't necessarily have the points to be, in the top 8. What do you think that brings to the league, and are you a fan of it or not that big of a fan? What are your thoughts?
Well, personally, I am a pretty big fan of that format. I started watching or paying close attention to the Cup Series around that time. They used that format, the 2011 Cup Series Chase format, and that's what I really stuck with, and it's a really great format in my opinion. And like you mentioned, it highlights the battle from the guys just outside the top 10. That's really the hardest racing on the racetrack and in the point standings every week in real life and in sim. And we see it with these guys, the SBLD drivers, pretty much every week in the Pits News Truck Series. They race hard, super hard every week for every spot, and they fought for that last wild card spot this season. They're fighting for the last spot in the top 9 right now. So I think it's going to be really dramatic next season with hopefully a lot more drivers, hopefully a lot more winners in contention there, and with that 9th through 20th bubble being bigger obviously next season, and a couple more regular season races could completely shake it up.
We've seen it in the past with just last season. Tyler Watermelon won at Talladega. So with us having these double headers before the chase, I definitely see someone that maybe you wouldn't expect to be a race winner have the opportunity to sneak in, and as long as they're in the top 20 in points, they're in a chase. They're taking up a spot, and that could really shake things up. I personally am a huge fan of that format. I think it's the best one. I think it's the one that NASCAR should have stuck with, but um, we have no say in that, unfortunately. But I'm a really big fan of the 2011 chase format. It's a lot of fun and gives some of these drivers who maybe don't always have great races in the sense of like getting a lot of points of racing up front, gives them that chance of, if they can sneak in there, win just one race, they are in contention for the championship, just like the rest of us, and that are usually in the top 10 in the standings.
Agreed,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Any kind of racing simulation stuff I would run, any kind of fake seasons I would run. My point set up to go to was always that format. You'd have the top group in points. They were locked in, and you'd have some wild cards thrown in there as well that win races or are able to get in there on points if they don't win races between that group. It's a fun. It balances out the need to win for those guys down at the bottom with the need to be consistent and run well. You can't just win one race and not show up the rest of the season. No, you have to win a race and maintain, and you've also got to hope that you don't have two guys ahead of you in points who win as well, because you're not guaranteed to get in with just one win. So it's definitely going to make Talladega, especially when we get later that season, where we get more, balanced out on who's going to make it on points, who's going to have to fight for the win at Talladega. It's going to make it a lot more interesting to see everybody come in who has to fight and swing for the fences there. That's really going to make a difference.
Absolutely, Dawson. The season is going to be thrilling for sure. We still got Season 2 to conclude, but we're looking forward towards Season 3 beginning September 3rd at Daytona on JCTV with that Talladega doubleheader December 17th, and then Homestead, Miami, wrapping up the regular season January 14th with the playoffs beginning Chicagoland January 21st, all on JCTV. Dawson, Alonso, thanks for joining once again, and thanks for everyone for listening to this edition of the ITPN Report. We'll see you next time.